Mr. Speaker, I want to start by highlighting that in this country, we have what we call a rogue national treasury. And by defining rogue, to me, is somebody who takes laws in his hands or her hands and doesn't conform to the existing laws. This House or any member of parliament or the county governors must not match to the national treasuries for them to effect any issue in terms of disbursement. Mr. Speaker, I take note that when we're investigating the telecom saga, National Treasury was implicated negatively. Mr. Speaker, when I sit in the committee for the Centralized Funds Account Committee where we oversight what has been done and reported by the Auditor General, we realize that there are issues with disbursement from National Treasury in terms of the NGCDF funds and in terms of GAF funds. We are saying that this House is not junior to National Treasury, that we must beg, we must crawl, we must kneel for them to release funds. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to equalization funds that was tabled, we noticed that 22 billion only has been released. And they're saying that there is laxity in disbursement of funds from the National Treasury. Mr. Speaker, I would like it to go on records that the PS National Treasury must be brought in this House and clear explanation to the facts that we are begging of and seemingly to be singing lullaby that the funds must be released. The PS National Treasury must respect this House and must respect the formula with which funds are supposed to be disbursed. Mr. Speaker, it is quite hurting that if 14 areas, counties, were identified as marginalized, I take cognizance that the Constitution respects what marginalization is. I want to uphold whoever or the committee that increased the number from 14 to 34. In fact, I'm saying that they ought to have increased it totality to 47 because this country is seriously undergoing economic marginalization. I'm just from the rural areas. When we look into Homa Bay, I visited quite a number of markets, Mr. Speaker, sir. All markets, most of them, they do not have electricity. They are crying of transformer. The MPs cannot implement what they are not given, what is not disbursed. The governor equally cannot implement what is not stretched. And so my serious number one fact, the National Treasury must be disciplined, must stop being rogue. Number two, Mr. Speaker, sir, regulation and framework must be put in place. We need a clear tabling of what projects were supposed to be undertaken in the 14 counties. We looked through during the flood areas, and we could watch over the television how farmers are suffering. The produce are getting rotten. There are no roads. There are no schools. And so we are saying, in as much as equalization funds were supposed to address infrastructure, supposed to address issues of education, health, we are saying we don't want to beg anybody over this. The same way we are budgeting and putting issues right, I want to see that when the budget for this financial year, next financial year, will be tabled in this House must rise to maturity and not focus on the political divide. It is a high time this House must know that they choose to put Kenya on the right track or put Kenya into the drain dogs. And so I'm saying as legislatures, we must stand firm that right things are done. We must not rise up for NGCDF on GAF to be given. Even the women reps of this country, we are marginalized in our own form. There are no funds, yet we are expected to work. We are waiting for what the president promised, 1 billion in the budget cycle. We had been given 1 billion for sanitary towels. We are also marginalized. We are waiting for 1 billion. We don't need to kneel unless as a National Assembly, we don't know why we were elected here. PS National Treasury, take charge, be disciplined, and serve this nation, and must be brought to the floor of this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.